Ooh wee, look what that money make a bitch do.
After finally sitting down and figuring out how to play Switch games on my PC, I've decided to go and play some of the games that I wouldn't be able to play otherwise since my Switch is completely broken beyond repair, and I'm not buying a new one. So one of the first games I wanted to play was Tears of the Kingdom. Now, I've already played Breath of the Wild and I found it to be a pretty good game actually. I enjoyed a lot of my time with it, and I figured Tears of the Kingdom would also be a good game, which it is, okay? So before you start typing your little think pieces in the comments, no, I do not think Tears of the Kingdom is a bad game. Yes, it is a lazy sequel because it's pretty much a fat-ass DLC for Breath of the Wild, where not much from Breath of the Wild gameplay-wise has been changed. If you have played Breath of the Wild, the sense of deja vu you get while playing Tears of the Kingdom is literally unshakable, and to an extent, especially in the later game, it kinda ruins this game a little bit. But again, this is not a bad game. Yes, it is a lazy sequel, but it is still a good game. Now, I've never been a huge Zelda fan, mainly because I've never played any of the games growing up, so I don't have any nostalgia towards this series, but as I said, I did enjoy Breath of the Wild, and I was interested to see what Tears of the Kingdom was all about. So after sinking around 70 hours into this game and damn near beating it, I believe I have a good enough understanding of this game. So the quick review of this game is this. While yes, it is a lazy sequel, it's still a good game. And if you enjoyed Breath of the Wild, you're going to enjoy this because they are literally the same damn game. And my guess is that you've probably already bought this and played it, and you probably have your own opinion on it. Now, if you haven't and you don't know which one to get, I'd honestly say it depends on mainly what you're looking for. If you want a game where you have like consistent, steady amount of fun, where the game doesn't feel too long, but also not too short, I would say go with Breath of the Wild since it's only about 40 hours on average. But there is also like 100 plus hours worth of content in Breath of the Wild if you decide to truly do everything. But if you want a really big game that you will be sinking at least 70 hours into it on just your first playthrough, then go with Tears of the Kingdom. But please get it on a discount. Do not pay $70 plus tax for this game. Now this will be a pretty short segment and something that I won't hold against the game necessarily since I don't think that will be fair. Again, I played this on PC, so I did experience some bugs and glitches, with the two main ones being screen flickering and FPS drops in Shrine. Now the screen flickering you might see in some of the clips, but there was nothing I could do about it, okay? Other than just restart the game and it would be fixed. And the biggest one, and by far the most annoying one, was the FPS drops in Shrine. Now, this is weird because it would only happen in a few shrines, mainly in the shrines that required the Ultra Hand, which, I mean, if you've played this game, you know that the Ultra Hand is used in damn near like all the shrines in this game. So doing these shrines with the Ultra Hand where you gotta build shit, and obviously probably your first time building something, it's not going to work the way you want it to. And having to do this while playing on a fucking potato that's literally at like 10 FPS is quite infuriating, okay? But again, since this is just like not like I didn't play this on a Switch, so I won't hold this against the game itself. This is more just like an emulation problem. So after my extensive research, I've come to the conclusion that this pretty much happens because the game glitches in these shrines for some reason, where it will infinitely load shaders over and over and over again, which would just tank the FPS, and there was nothing I could do about it. Also, the final thing, which yes, am I probably being a salty little bitch? Probably, yeah. But as I said in the beginning, I've damn near beat this game, and I mean that to the literal sense of it. I am at the very end of the game. I am talking Demon King Ganon, but I am soft locked and I will not restart the game, or I will not reload a save from like a few hours ago, because what has happened is that I'm at 1 heart. I have 1 heart and I have no healing items that will like give me my heart back because of gloom, because of course running back to Ganon, it's not like in Breath of the Wild where you just go to the fucking castle and you just gotta fight him instantly. No. You gotta go through this whole fucking puzzle with all these enemies, and then you have to fight like Ganon's army, which like again, I didn't have any healing for my fucking like the gloom like hearts that get taken away. So I am literally at the very end of the game, Demon King Ganon, with 1 heart. That is it. I have to learn how to no-hit the final boss in this game, which I am not doing. Okay, I'm not doing that. Nor am I going to reload a save, go find the fucking food that's necessary that will restore my heart, run all the way through this stupid little maze to get to Ganon, fight his army, then re-fight Ganon just to get to Demon King Ganon. I'm not doing that again. Because I am tired of this game. I've been playing it for 3 weeks straight. I'm fucking done with it. So yes, if you want to discredit me for not technically beating the game, go ahead, I don't care. But I am not doing all that shit just to beat Ganon for a game that I've already sunk 70 hours into. But again, I am just salty, and you can probably just call me like a salty little hoe. So I'm not going to hold this against the game because this is 100% avoidable. But I was so sick and tired of this game for like the last 20 hours of it that I was just like, fuck it. I'm just going to like tunnel vision my way to the end. I'm going to start with the combat because that's my favorite part of video games, even though Zelda games aren't really combat focused. But still, I'm going to start with it anyway. Now, it is literally completely similar to Breath of the Wild. If you played Breath of the Wild, you've played this before. It is the same fucking combat. I don't really know how to describe it, really. I mean, it's incredibly simple. I guess if I had to explain it to a normie, think of it as like incredibly easy and dumbed down Dark Souls, or Elden Ring, since that's all the normies fucking know about the Souls series. So think of it as like a really watered down like Elden Ring, I guess, if you're a normie. I mean, you're gonna hold your shield out and you're just gonna smack whatever enemy that's coming in front of you. And depending on like the difficulty of the enemy, they're either going to like get staggered where they go fucking ragdoll 50 feet away where you have to run at them again. Or you're going to have to dodge their attack where if you have like a perfect dodge, you get like a flurry rush, which is still incredibly OP. Or you can parry, but I'm going to be honest with you, I never parried in this game other than for like a combat shrine. So yeah, just stick to like the flurry rush and you'll be alright. The combat isn't hard, okay? And arrows have been reworked, sort of, because the biggest and only change to this game's combat is the ability to fuse shit together. Because let's say you get like a big stick or whatever, or like a club, you can fuse it with like a boss item, which will make it like have the properties of whatever item you fuse it with, which like you can make a flamethrower or like an electric sword, or if you beat like a really big boss, you can fuse it with one of the items that the boss drops, which is going to allow that 8 damage item that is pretty much fucking useless to do like 30 damage and be kind of important. And the same thing can go for arrows, where you're just gonna have a whole lot of shit that you can fuse with arrows, which will make them do more damage or turn them into fire arrows or electric arrows. You get the idea. You're gonna fuse shit together to make stronger weapons or stronger arrows, which in doing this, it is a neat idea. But the biggest problems with this game's combat still haven't been solved in doing this. My biggest issue that I had with Breath of the Wild was the fact that loot felt unimportant, and I never cared to actually fight any of the monsters in either of these games because of the durability mechanic. I know a lot of people didn't like the durability mechanic in Breath of the Wild, and if you hate it in that game, you're gonna hate it in this one. Because what happens is that you're gonna get a hold of a really strong weapon, or you will fuse together like a really strong weapon, but then you're never going to use it until it's time to fight a boss. So for every other combat situation, either A, you're just going to avoid it all entirely, or B, if you do have to fight, you're going to use a lot of weaker weapons that you don't care about losing, while also saving a few spots for like a few tool weapons, because you can do that. Like for instance, if you fuse like a stick with like a rock, it's going to make a hammer that you can mine like ore with, or like a torch. So you're going to save a few spots for like things like that. But then if you're going to have to fight something, you're just going to use a lot of the weaker weapons that you don't care about losing until it's time to fight a boss, when you're going to use your strong ass weapon. But the problem is, it's like, cool, I just fused together or just obtained this strong ass weapon. Now I'm never going to use it because I don't want to lose it. But in me never using it, it's just going to become power creeped until it just becomes like a useless ass weapon that, again, I don't care to lose. Then the same thing can sort of be applied with arrows, where you're going to now fuse arrows with different materials, giving them different unique properties, which again is a unique idea. But in reality, it's not really that useful, or not as useful to the extent that Nintendo was probably hoping that people would use it to be. Because again, dominant strategy is king. You're going to use the same materials that are just strong. For instance, you're going to use like the fire berries or the choo-choo jelly that's going to make either fire arrows, ice arrows, electric arrows, or bomb arrows. That's really all the shit you're going to use. Yeah, you can use some of like the zonite items that are either going to like charge an arrow or make it do more damage. But again, you're just going to use whatever is strong. You're not going to sit there going through a million different items seeing what each one does when you know, hey, this one does this and this will be useful in this situation. Let me just use that. And this also does bring in another like low-key problem with this game's combat, is that there is way too much pausing, especially when it comes to the arrows, because you can fuse arrows with literally fucking anything in this game. And in doing that, you have this fat ass list of a whole lot of shit that you can like fuse this arrow with, even though again, dominant strategy is king. If all I want is like a bomb arrow, I have to scroll through this entire fucking row and list of a bunch of items that I will never use just to find this one like component that I need for an arrow. And it slows down the combat way too much. Now onto something positive, the champion vows are a way better alternative to what Breath of the Wild system was, because even though yes, they are retarded as shit, they still feel useful enough in a fight to where they are like helping, but they are not incredibly overpowered where they will just win you a fight. At least not in the end game. Now, when you have all 4 of them and you fight like a really like early game enemy, yeah, they're just gonna shit on them. But like for an actual boss fight that matters, they do enough like damage and like they feel useful enough without actually winning you the fight. Unlike in Breath of the Wild where either A, like the bird bitch, or maybe it was the elephant. I think it was the elephant that like just gave you a completely new life. That shit was so OP, while everything else was just useless as fuck. Boss fights are also kind of fun, but also not really. Like, for the temples, they are enough of a challenge that make you like actually have to pay some bit of attention, but they're also way too reliant on like the specific power that the sage of that temple uses. For instance, like for like the Gerudo temple, you're just gonna run around shooting electric arrows at them, or waiting for like the little fucking princess bitch to like be done off cooldown so you can just again fill the area up with electricity so she can just shoot an arrow destroying all the enemies or damaging the boss. Same thing with the water guy, you're just gonna wait for him to be done on cooldown so you can throw water at the boss. It's the same type of deal. Now I do think the flying temple boss was the best one out of all of these because it actually felt unique and not like super like heavily reliant on like whatever the power of like the little bird sage was. But onto like the open world bosses, I didn't fight many of them because again of the durability mechanic. Why am I gonna fight them and lose all my strong weapons when instead I can just like avoid them all entirely? But the ones that I did fight, like the Maldulga, was pretty fun. Overall, I think the combat is fine, but goddamn, this game needs more enemy variety because you will fight the same enemies for the entire fucking game, and it doesn't help that you've already fought these enemies in Breath of the Wild. So this game is a great example of why enemy variety is important. Fighting the same 10 enemies for 70 hours is incredibly boring because like I've already fought this shit 100 times. Why do I want to fight it now? And it's just gonna waste my fucking weapons because again of the durability mechanic, so I'm not even gonna fight them. This game's combat never really gets difficult. Rather, I'll say it gets annoying at the end game because enemies have just so much fucking health, and then they can affect you with like gloom, which just removes a heart that you can't heal back unless you have a specific food. Because really the only challenge to this game's combat is whether or not you're gonna get one hit. Now the reason Breath of the Wild is so good is because of the exploration, and Tears of the Kingdom is no different. You are gonna play these games because of the open world, and just like in Breath of the Wild, exploring this world is still fun. There is something incredibly enjoyable about getting dropped into this world and doing shrines and filling out the map. I don't know why, but like it's just fun. That's the most fun I have with these type of games because it allows you to go and do whatever you want whenever you want. It's not like you're forced to do the story or forced to do side quests. If you want to spend 80 hours doing all the fucking shrines and unlocking the map, you can do that. And that's what I love about this game. So for the first 40 to 45 hours, maybe even 50, this is incredibly fun. The shrines are still fun because they're all different. It's pretty fun doing them now. It's like a whole new thing. I think that's kind of like a part that these games do really well because for the most part, doing shrines in these games is incredibly fun. And this is coming from somebody who fucking hates puzzles. I think for like 80% 90% of the shrines, figuring them out is pretty fun and is probably like the best part of it. And another part that I think is definitely like underrated is how unique of like ways that you can do these shrines, because I know for a fact I was doing some of these shrines completely wrong, but I feel like that's where a lot of the fun is with them. They force creativity and like they encourage you to do something unique and different to try and solve them. Now yes, some of the puzzles are complete bullshit and you're gonna have to look them up, but for the most part, if you actually take the time and try to like figure out what the puzzle is trying to like what it's trying to be, I would say that you would have a lot of fun doing the shrines, just like you did in Breath of the Wild. Then there's the towers, which I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed Breath of the Wild's towers way better. I find the whole stamina mechanic to be really fun in these games, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because you can like climb damn near anything if you have enough stamina. This giving you another reason to actually complete shrines so you can upgrade your stamina. I don't know, I just think climbing to the top of the tower was way more fun than solving some random little puzzle or riddle to unlock them. But this is also a very minor complaint when it comes to the open world. Then there's the dragon tiers, which I think are a massive improvement over Breath of the Wild. Because in Breath of the Wild, in order to get to Korok Forest to get the Master Sword, I'm pretty sure you had to complete that whole side quest of finding each specific location around the map so Link could like regain his memories. But in Tears of the Kingdom, there's these like big ass symbols or murals, I don't know really what to call them, that like you can just like see while you're flying down from one of the towers, where if you go to them you gotta find this like specific little puddle of water, which I guess is supposed to be a dragon tier, where if you find it, you watch a cutscene and it gives you lore behind everything. I think that is a much better alternative to than what like Breath of the Wild did. Now, I won't lie, the ending to this side quest caught me off guard, because why the fuck is Zelda a dragon? And to nobody's surprise, the Master Sword is on top of her head. Who would have thought? Then there's like the Sky Islands, which I don't have really that much to say about them, honestly. I didn't care for them. In my 70 hours, the only Sky Island I went to, like consistently, was the tutorial area. And that was just so I could upgrade my health and shit, because that's the only fucking, like, prayer statue that I like consistently knew where to find. Otherwise, I never gave a single fuck about any of the Sky Island, unless it was for like obviously like one of like the temples of the game, but you don't have a choice to go there. And I also never once upgraded my Zonai battery charge thing, so I won't even talk about that, or like all like the building mechanics that you can do with the Zonai materials. And I also didn't use the notorious segue that completely like breaks the game. Now, as I said, for the first 40 to 45 hours, the open world and exploring it is incredibly fun, but this game is at least 70 hours long, and these tasks that you found fun at first start to become incredibly frustrating and boring because of how repetitive they are. Because for me, after around 50 hours, I completed all 4 temples, unlocked like 90% of the map, and did around like 50 to 55-ish shrines, and I was pretty much ready for the game to be over at this point. But I had no idea what was still waiting, because after completing all 4 shrines, you head to Hyrule Castle and you fight Ganon, which I actually found to be pretty fun. Sure, running around the castle looking for like the fake Zelda just to be ambushed by a bunch of enemies was a little boring and repetitive, but the boss fight itself was fun. And I knew that that wasn't the end of the game, but I didn't think that the game was going to stall on for another 20 hours. Because after everything you just did, and for me, I was getting tired of this game by this point, because there's nothing new that the game is trying to show me. You are doing the same fucking things over and over and over again, which again, for the first 40 to 50 hours is fine, but after that, you can only do the same thing so many times before it becomes boring. But I was met with the terrible news that there was now a 5th sage that I had to find, and this whole side quest was just, oh my god, it was infuriating. Because it's unlike any of the 4 other sages that you have to do. Now, I knew that this sage would be located in the depths, which I heard was terrible, but I didn't know how bad the depths truly were until I played this game. Because, oh my god, the depths fucking suck. It is as bad as everyone says it is. The depths is literally the entire Hyrule map that you spent the first 40 to 50 hours completing and exploring. But now it's it's inverted or like flipped upside down, and it is covered in complete darkness. With the absolute worst part of it being that there is nothing to do in there. This area is complete padding, and for somebody who was already getting tired of this game, this completely pushed me over the edge, because now I have to re-explore an entirely new area that's fat as fuck, that has nothing in it. It is in complete darkness. So now I'm running around this big ass area that is completely dark, hoping that I can find this stupid sage temple, just to realize that the first part of it wasn't even in the darkness, like wasn't even in the depths. Like it got to the point where I just gave up entirely and just started looking up guides for how to do this stupid ass fucking quest, because now you have to do this stupid riddle where you have to find specific clothes and travel to another sky island just to go into the depths and build a damn robot. And at this point I was so tired of the game, I just wanted it to end. So I think that the open world in this game is still fun, at least for the overworld, if you actually decide to not break the game with the Segway. Because if you use the Segway, the entire challenge of traversal is gone, because you can just go anywhere you fucking want. But just like in Breath of the Wild, exploration is fun and has a unique challenge to it. But this game's biggest problem is that it doesn't know when to fucking end. Yes, for the first 40 to 50 hours, you will enjoy it, even though yes, it is literally just Breath of the Wild again, where you go around helping each of Hyrule's major civilizations with their climate problems, while doing shrines and towers, and the occasional side quest here and there. But you can only do the same thing while fighting the same enemies for so long until you just get tired of it. And I think that's where I give the edge to Breath of the Wild in this instance, because Breath of the Wild is a consistent amount of fun that doesn't overstay its welcome. You complete all the shrines, and then you go to the castle and you fight Calamity Ganon, and the game is over, right? And if you want to do more, there is more content for you to go find if you really want it. I feel like more time and effort needed to be put into either the Sky Islands or the depths to make those areas feel more unique, because there is nothing on the Sky Islands other than just some of the story based temples that you have no choice to go to, and then a few shrines here and there, and then the depths is a literal straight padding. Now I'm just gonna kind of go over like a few little things that I don't feel need like a whole explanation behind them. Starting off with the temples, I think they're alright. They do get kind of boring and repetitive once you're close to finishing the first 4 of them. I found doing the last overworld one and definitely the 5th sage temple to be a drag. So if you didn't like the divine beast in Breath of the Wild, you're not gonna like these ones either. They're pretty much the same thing, even though I do think they are a little more like complex sort of, or like they have more depth to them a little bit. I think getting to Korok's Forest was actually a pretty unique idea. Instead of having you have to complete a whole side quest in order to just get there, I think having to use the underground and like using the ascend ability to get yourself up there was kind of cool. And it didn't take too long either to figure out where the Master Sword was, even though most people probably could have guessed that it was on Zelda's head. I think the new abilities that Link has are pretty cool as well and a nice change to things, even though most definitely Ascend and the Ultra Hand are probably the ones that you're going to be using the most. I just kind of wish that they had a way to like incorporate those into boss fights, kind of like how they did with the rewind time feature. I think having to use that against bosses was pretty fun. But honestly, they did a good job with these abilities. I have nothing to complain about them. I don't hate the soundtrack of this game, but I kind of wish there was like more to it. It's very minimalist, and I don't know, like some of the tracks are good, but then sometimes there's no soundtrack at all, and I kind of like a soundtrack in an open world game, especially one where I'm gonna have to walk a fuck ton in it. Some of the side quests are also okay, with some of them being very hit or miss. Like that's kind of how most of them are. They're either gonna have really good ones or you're gonna have some pretty shitty ones. And for the story, I'm going to be honest, I don't really care for the story in this game. It sort of feels like Breath of the Wild story never happened though. Like, I don't know, maybe I wasn't paying enough attention, but like, do the divine beasts even come up in this game? Like, what are the effects of Calamity Ganon? Like, I know 5 years have passed or whatever, but like, it kind of feels like this whole story kind of was like it wasn't like a built sequel. It was like they didn't really know where to take the story after Breath of the Wild, so they were just kind of like threw some shit together. So in conclusion, do I think that this is a bad game? No. Tears of the Kingdom is still a good game, even though it is just a reskinned version of Breath of the Wild. And that because of this, it does hurt this game when it comes to like the later game. And I do feel like it drags on a little too long, actually way too long. But I did enjoy my time with this game. I would be lying to you if I said I didn't have fun. Truly though, I don't know where they will take the Zelda franchise after this game, because after playing both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the the Kingdom, I feel like I've had my enjoyment with this style of Zelda game. Now, I will be reviewing other Zelda games, so I'll see how those ones are, but I do like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I wish they did put maybe a little more effort into making this game feel a little more different from Breath of the Wild, and maybe shortened it down a little bit. I think that would have helped this game out a lot. So if you are thinking of buying it, I would recommend either A, emulating it, whether that's illegally or legally. I'm not telling you which one to do. Or if you are going to buy it at a discount. But I still think Breath of the Wild is a better game.